Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell, and today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is wondering how to recognize a good, true love. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this. We are just two people with microphones and opinions, so please take our advice as you see fit. We're just here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. All right, today's letter is from Healthy Relationship Novice, whose pronouns are she, her, who's writing to us from My Humble Musings. Hi, Sam and Salmon Sierra. Why is there two Sams in there?
Because it's Sam and / Sam and Sierra.
I don't get it.
Like, it's like you can pick either one of those. Not like a, yeah.
Your name is Sam and or Salmon.
Yeah.
Cute. First, thank you so much for your it took me 5 years to figure that out. First, thank you so much for your podcast. I've been binging the backlog of episodes for the last month and already feel like I've grown as a person. I love the Twin Cities representation as well. I'm writing with a bit more of a philosophical question. I recently broke up with my boyfriend of a year and a half, and it was the longest, and so I thought, healthiest relationship of my adult life. For context, I'm 36, so my adult life is a decent amount of time. He was kind, gentle, understanding, and delightfully nerdy. I felt fully myself around him and was aligning my future to be with him. Unfortunately, I got the infamous "Hey girl" DM.
Oh no.
Letting me know that he had been inappropriately messaging a girl on Instagram. First of all, I love the "Hey girl" DM as like a title. Have you ever received or sent a "Hey girl" DM?
No.
Me neither, but I'm sure I should have. I should have sent a couple, and I probably should have received a dozen.
Yeah, you should have received quite a few, I believe.
Okay, to me, this is like from their family members, at least. You know what I mean?
For real.
To me, this is cheating, and after letting myself settle for a week, we broke up. Don't worry, the block is now in place. On reflecting and much listening to your podcast, I'm realizing that our communication during the relationship could have been better. I'm also now doubting myself. After dating terrible men in my 20s and early 30s, I thought I'd finally found a good person. And he also turned out to be a frog. I'm starting to wonder if I missed out on a key development step in my early adult life due to the shortish nature of all my relationships that will limit me going forward. So to bring it back to my question for the two of you, how does one recognize a good, true love? What are the qualities of a mature and healthy adult relationship? I'd love to get some of your humble yet ever so helpful musings on the topic, from communication to trust to working as a team and beyond. What are some of the key differences between your current healthy relationships and past unhealthy relationships? Has anything about a healthy relationship ever surprised you? Also, thank you so much for all that you do.
All right, Healthy Relationship Novice, thank you for writing to us and asking this question. Yeah, I mean, people are frogs. Like, that's kind of the reality of being out there in the world, is that like somebody that we really like and love can also like be doing something behind our back or be treating us poorly or have something come up in their life where they can't be with us. And it's hard to differentiate between like what looks and feels like a very healthy relationship, and then like one that is like, oh, there's something that's going on underneath the surface, right? Because it sounds like your relationship, you were like really trying to keep it healthy and keep lines of communication open and all of this kind of stuff. And he wasn't being honest with you, or he was doing something that was like outside of the bounds of your relationship, either that you had agreed to or that was, that you were expecting of him. And I think that is a important thing to remember, is that like, no amount of like quote unquote healthiness is going to prevent bad things from happening in our relationships, right? Like,
right.
The tools for sure help us suss out stuff that might be harmful to us or, might help us move through something where somebody does something stupid or something comes up and we need to talk through it, right? Like the tools are there to help facilitate some of the stuff, but that doesn't mean that nothing bad ever happens, right?
Yes.
Like it's not like, oh, if your communication is perfect, then the person in the relationship will never cheat on you, right? Like, no, I can't guarantee that, right? Does having healthy communication in place like offer like a better understanding of what the ins and outs of the relationship are? Yes. Does it help when something like that happens, when somebody cheats? Like, can we have conversations about like, how do we move forward? Do we move forward, right? Like those tools can help us with that, but they're not going to prevent people from making mistakes or from bad things happening to us. Like, cause we're humans. We're our relationships, I would say that my relationship is the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And also shit comes up sometimes, right? Like I do or say a stupid thing, or we have this incompatibility that's like come up and like it throws a wrench in our relationship for a period of time. And the tools help us figure out how to navigate through some of those things and like, address them as they come up, but they don't prevent them from happening, right? Like it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. And I'm glad you led with that, because I also want to say, like, I think the questions you ask about how to discern the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship, they're all very thought-provoking, and I'm excited to answer them. But I first just want to say, it's not your fault that this person sent a "Hey girl" DM. Like, this is not a product of your unhealthy relationships of the past. This is not like a karmic deliverance. Do you know what I mean? Like, you did think, like, you had every reason to think that this was a healthy, safe relationship. And it's not because like you were a bad gardener of that relationship flowering or not, or whatever.
For sure.
Like it's the plant's fault. Or whatever. I think it's so easy to, when we think about like why things happen to us, I fall victim to this all the time. I always think that the bad things that happen to me, they're an of course statement. Of course they happen because I'm a bad person and this is what I deserve. Or like, of course, because you wanted a good, healthy relationship. You wanted it so much that the universe has to like humble you. But there's no universal karmic God out there that is like dishing out shitty boyfriends to teach us a lesson, right?
True. Very true.
You did the right thing by putting your heart out there. Right. And you did the right thing by saying, this is a red flag to me, so I'm going to step away. To me, A+, very healthy relationship right here, because you maintained your boundaries. You responded accordingly and you got yourself out. Like A+, you were taking a relationship test and you passed with flying colors. Yeah. He did not, but that doesn't mean you failed.
He should be writing in, but yeah,
exactly. So let's go to the questions. I'm just going to go through them and we can muse on them. How does one recognize a good true love? What are the qualities of a mature and healthy adult relationship? Actually, I want to start with the later question, which is, what are the key differences between your current healthy relationships and past unhealthy relationships? Because I think that's important too. Or like a little bit like an easy stepping stone into the conversation. And this sounds so simple, like it is more complex in action, but my wife is very easy to trust. I find that trust easy to access in me. Does that mean that I don't, that I never feel jealous or that I never feel like I need to work to trust her? Like, no, there's always a certain amount of labor we have to put into these things, especially with shitty history, attachment styles, all of these things. Like, it does not come freely, but it comes much, much infinitely easier than it did with my untrustworthy past partner, period.
Yeah.
That is like a huge thing for me. And I'm wondering if obviously like there are no universals out there, but like, I wonder if you agree that like there is an inherent feeling of ease versus not ease, but I don't know, sociopaths could like prove us wrong.
Oh, for sure. Sociopaths can always prove us wrong. I absolutely agree that like what looks different is that the person that I'm in a relationship is more healthy than my past relationships were.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it is like, I'm healthier and they are healthier. And so, and Peter is healthier than like many of the people that I dated. And so it was just much easier for us to be able to like have difficult conversations with each other. And that wasn't actually even necessarily true at the beginning of our relationship, right? Like we're going to answer a letter again this week where it's like, yeah, this is kind of what the dynamics of our early relationship looked like. And it was like, it was hard and it wasn't necessarily like perfect, but the fact that we were both accountable to our growth as people made it easier for us to try things out with each other and be like, this isn't working for me. Can we do something else? Or like, we're able to sort of talk to each other about what's going on. And like in my past relationships, that wasn't available to me either. Like I wasn't able to talk about the things that were going on for me, or they were being deceitful, or like we just didn't have the ability to like talk to each other in a meaningful way. But I think a part of that is like not necessarily that we set up the relationship with like a different set of rules or parameters. I think it's that just like I started dating a person who was committed to their own healing journey in a similar way that I was.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, because I was sitting here thinking like, I don't think there's a conversation that my spouse hasn't showed up for with the intention of making it through the end of the conversation as a team. Do you know what I mean? And it's the individual onus too. It's saying like, I'm here for my healing and my growth. And that is only going to benefit our relationship from both ends, like both of us saying we're on our own journey and we're here to support each other on that journey. Yeah.
No. And I think like, again, that didn't mean that neither of us fucked up in our relationship, right? Like we totally messed up in a bunch of different ways. I would say me more than Peter, probably.
Yeah.
But again, because there was a level of accountability that we were able to move past those things, which again, like speaks to the fact that like the thing that happened to you wasn't the cause of unhealthiness from you or from the relationship necessarily, right? Like you handled things really healthily. And Peter and I have made the decision to like handle some of the stuff that's come up for us in partnership with each other. But it also could have looked like, oh, this isn't working for us, so let's healthily get ourselves out of this situation, as opposed to redoing the same cycle over and over again. Like luckily we've been able to break some of the cycles that we've fallen into because of the way that we are both working on it. But it also could have looked like we're just triggering each other, or you've done something that was a mistake that's totally outside of the lines, right? Like that's a deal breaker for me. So we've navigated through some of that stuff, but just because we're still together doesn't mean that we're necessarily healthier than people who have broken up because of something that has happened, right? Like that, you know what I mean? Like I'm really trying not to like put ourselves on a pedestal, right? Like
that's a great way to discern it, is that like relationships are a lot about work and also luck. Mm-hmm. And so if a relationship ends, it doesn't mean necessarily that you are bad at relationships or failing at relationships, or that this is like, again, I keep going back to what I was thinking, like you got an A+ in relationships to me, letter writer, because you were like, this constitutes as cheating to me. And therefore I drew this line and said, I'm not interested in participating in this relationship anymore. Like that is something that I could not do for years. Something that I didn't do. He dumped me. We've got like a rolling tally of how many times I've gotten to make that joke in the last month. But yeah. So that is such a great discernment to make, of just like relationship length doesn't equate relationship health.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And other people's undoings onto us, other people's, what they bring is not an answer to some like karmic thing that we deserve or whatever. What are the qualities of a mature and healthy adult relationship? I feel like you answered that. Showing up ready to work on yourself. I also just want to say caveat, like, I think for me, part of a long-term healthy, mature relationship is also recognizing when to accept that if growth is perpetual, then rest has to be consistent. Like, I can't nitpick everything my spouse says in the sake of their growth or my growth, because we're trying to be together for the long haul. So like, part of, for me, a mature and healthy adult relationship is also accepting that because we are inherently flawed people, we will always trigger each other, activate each other, say the wrong thing, disappoint each other. And this is not to make excuse for, like I said, that my last relationship felt 100% different than this relationship does, because it's more stable, it's more healthy, it's more mature, it's actually trustworthy, it's committed, we are in alignment with our relationship vision. It couldn't feel more different, you know? But I also feel like I have more understanding of my wife's shortcomings. And there's sort of like an equity that was built up there because she's trustworthy, because she's secure, because she is consistent, available, building towards a future together, communicative. Because she is all of those things, I therefore am less desperately anxious and don't need to be hyper vigilant to all of her fuck ups. You know what I mean? Because we're going to fuck up, because that's what's going to happen, you know?
For sure.
For example, my wife went hiking with her sister this last weekend, and they were originally going to do a 2-day hike where they hike up one mountain, camp in the middle, and then hike another one, and then come home. You know, so it was an overnight trip. There was a bunch of weather stuff, like there was like smoke index issues, a ton of rain. And so they were going back and forth about what their plan was. And I didn't find out until she was up in the mountains that they were doing a different hike, camping at my sister's cabin, and then biking the next day just for a trip and then coming home, you know. So not a big deal. I just didn't know what their plans were. And when I found out that she hadn't told me that they changed their plans, I only felt foolish because, you know, it never feels good to like be unaware. And I had just like told my whole family about this big trip that she was going on. And like, if something were to happen, if I had to like call the authorities, I'd be like, well, she's on this mountain doing this. And she was like totally somewhere else. And so we had a conversation about it. Yeah. We had a conversation about it, and she was super apologetic because she felt like she dropped the ball in not telling me. I after my initial surprise, I didn't care. But here's why I'm telling you this story, is that like, that was a mistake, right? Easy mistake. If my ex would have done that in our unstable, unhealthy relationship, in a relationship in which consistency was an issue, faithfulness was an issue, we didn't have a shared relationship vision, we weren't building the equity of that. It's not just like trust, it's like building up this reservoir of compassion and understanding and safety within one another. Mm-hmm. If my ex would have done that, if my ex would have gone away for a weekend saying he was going one place and ended up going another place, I would have flipped my fucking house upside down, right? Because because I didn't have this reservoir of safety to lean back on. Which just to make sure that the point is getting across, like, another sign of a healthy adult mature relationship for me is people who are committed to their growth, committed to their healing, committed to supporting their partner's growth and healing, but know when to say, oh, that was a mistake. No problem. Like, this is no yeah. worries. That's it. Uh-huh. Like, this is not a sign of your attachment style, or this is not a sign of your childhood trauma. This is a mistake.
Yeah.
Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that again, it's sort of like this sitting in the richness of our experiences. Right. Like, and again, like, to be clear, Peter could be cheating on me, right? You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't think he is. But if he were, again, it doesn't mean necessarily that
Liars
like
be lying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. He's such a liar. He just lies all the time. That's a joke because he does not.
He
but
like is incapable of it.
no, absolutely. But again, like it's one of those things where it's like the trust aspect of it is not the issue, right? The issue is the other person's behavior. You know, this person that cheated on you didn't cheat on you because you believed him, or didn't cheat on you because you were too trusting of him, right? He cheated on you because he was cheating on you. Like there's multiple different reasons for why that might have been happening, right? So it's like, again, I want to just like come back to this idea of like, this all could be happening at the same time that something duplicitous could be happening. And it's not our fault for trusting people. It's not our fault for believing them, right? It's the fact that they're breaching that trust that's the issue. So keep looking for things that feel like they're sustainable. Keep looking for people who are willing to talk with you. And that's not a 100% guarantee that you won't be heartbroken again. That is just not possible. So like this idea of like, I'm going to find the one true healthy relationship is understandable and also impossible to find. It can't exist. I can't guarantee that there's not going to be something in my relationship with Peter that's going to break us up, despite the fact that our relationship is the healthiest I've ever been in. We may come across like incompatibility that is like totally unable to be
Peter
maintained.
wants us to move in. Peter wants me to move into your house. So
I think I would be okay with that, and he would be like, what?
I'll be calling Peter as soon as we turn this off.
Like if like one of us needs to move somewhere, or like I don't know, if Peter meets a person who he falls in love with outside of our relationship, right? Like there's a lot of different things that could happen. But again, it's not the health of our relationship that's going to prevent things from happening. It's the health of our relationship is going to help us figure out what to do in that situation.
Yes. And to answer your last question, which I think might be my favorite, has anything about a healthy relationship ever surprised you? Yeah. The fact that like I bring my baggage wherever I go. That like, no, you know, I think a lot of us fall under the thought trap of if I meet the right person, this is not going to be an issue. Or if I'm in a healthy relationship, I'm not going to be jealous anymore. Guess what? Will is a really trustworthy person, and my jealousy came out, and then you realize it's on us to deal with it. You know, it's like it's on me.
Yeah.
It's on me it's on me in a healthy, stable relationship with a trustworthy partner to be like, oh, this jealousy is no longer serving me. It's not protecting me from anything because she's not cheating on me like my ex was. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now how can we basically like we talk about healing and growth like thresholds. Like I'm going to pass over this threshold into the place of healing, healthy relationship. You know what surprised me about healthy relationships is that they're always in the process of healing. They're always in the process of going from unhealthy to healthy. There's no stopping that. Like on the surface, I can say to you, I'm in a healthy relationship. But what I really mean is I'm in a growing relationship. I'm in a healing relationship. And healing inherently implies that there's still wounds, right? Inherently implies that there's still brokenness. I'm never going to be like, I'm in a healed relationship.
Yep.
I am in a healing relationship.
For sure. Bringing out the Oprah in here. Are you healed or are you healing?
Are you healing? Literally my favorite thing we've ever joked about in the entirety of the universe.
All right. In all seriousness, Healthy Relationship Novice, thank you so much for writing to us, for asking us this important question. You're doing the work. You're doing it right. You are looking for those healthy relationships. You are looking for the tools that you can use to make your relationships as healthy as possible. And Sierra and I are here with you, as well as the rest of the Just Break Up community, in this continual growth. We are all learning as we are doing, and that's the only way that we can do it. Right. We love you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in more content from us, or if you would like episodes ad-free, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as episodes without ads. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod. You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise. Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts. And remember, we are all figuring it out. You might see somebody who you think has like their life together and their relationship together, and they got like a beautiful yard and I don't know, they dress well. But that person is as emotionally complex and diverse as you are. They are moving through the world, healing and growing and fucking up just like you are. And there's no hierarchy in being a human. There's no hierarchy in growing. All we can do is show up for ourselves and for our growth. And if all else fails,
just break up.